As we start a new week, we are talking about healthy ways to stay on track this summer. It can certainly be hard during the summer between vacation, going out to eat, friends having barbecues, a lot of things like that. So we're so fortunate to have 9 health expert Dr. Payal Kohli joining us now a little bit more for this conversation. Dr. Kohli, I think you and I were just recounting all the things we had this weekend, and this is a perfect conversation coming off a hot weekend when you're inside and maybe all you're looking at is, I'm hungry, I want to eat, all this stuff. Talk to me a little bit about the fact that we're diving into specifically 2 diets here. We're talking about the Mediterranean diet and keto diet. What's even the difference between the 2?
You know, 2 very popular diets, Jordan, very fad, so to speak, and a lot of doctors recommend Mediterranean, but we have a new study now that compares them head to head. So the keto diet, which is essentially a starvation diet, is very effective for weight loss because what it does is it limits the amount of carbohydrates that you take in to 20 to 50 grams a day, which is about 1 cup of cooked rice or less. And that induces a state of starvation in the body, which then causes the body to break down your fat to release that as sugar. And so it's very good for breaking down fat. But it does limit the amount of legumes, the amount of berries and fruits that you take in. So it limits a lot of other things that you could do. The Mediterranean, on the other hand, is kind of a moderate carbohydrate diet, but enriches for legumes, beans, fruits, and vegetables. So 2 very different diets with similar results.
Yeah, super interesting. You know, I think if anybody else out there is like me, sadly, as we get older, the diets aren't even about how I look anymore. It's really about what's not going to upset my stomach anymore. What are some of the health benefits to the 2 of these diets?
So they compared them head to head in diabetic and pre-diabetic patients. Both were very effective for weight loss. So it'll get those pounds off, definitely. Both were effective for sugar control in a similar fashion. So it gets the sugar levels down. But the keto diet actually raised your bad cholesterol by about 10%.
Wow.
Yes, whereas the Mediterranean diet lowered it by about 5%. We also saw that you had more nutritional deficiencies, like vitamin deficiencies with the keto diet, and you had a very low fiber intake, which led to more constipation.
Oh, interesting. Which you were talking about earlier. You said a lot of doctors do recommend the Mediterranean diet. And is it because of the cholesterol, things like that?
That's exactly right. So now we actually have scientific evidence. We've known for a long time that eating fruits and vegetables, legumes and beans are good for you. But this is one of the preliminary scientific evidences that tells us that not only is keto incredibly hard to sustain, so everybody stopped the diet after the trial ended because it's hard to keep up, but it also is not probably very good for you in the long term because it causes those adverse changes in your lipid parameters, which probably also lead to more inflammation downstream.
So I'm really curious. My partner and I were talking about this this weekend, and we feel like as we get older, our diets, it's again not about how we look. It becomes more and more restrictive because our bodies just can't handle things. Why is that?
You know, our metabolism changes as we get older. So there's actually data out there that, you know, because the metabolism slows down for every decade of your life, you really ought to be not just reducing your caloric intake by about 10%, but potentially also varying the types of foods that you eat. And it's funny you talk about a hot weekend because there's certain types of foods we should be eating when it's hot, which are, you know, the kind of watermelon, rich in water type of foods. You should not be eating processed foods, sugar, high protein foods. Those are not things that you're very good at digesting when it's hot and also generate heat from inside.
Good to know. Good to know. Any snacks you might recommend for people who are going to try? Because we just talked about we're going to have a long stretch of days with this extreme heat again. Any snacks you might recommend we try to eat?
So I would say snacks that are easy to digest, but not too high in protein. So you definitely, nuts, which I usually love to eat because they're part of the Mediterranean diet, not a good idea on hot weekends. You want to eat mostly fruit type of snacks because they're high in that water content.
Typically I crave fruits anyway when it's hot outside. So this is all perfectly in my wheelhouse. We very much appreciate it. Yeah, again, we're talking about that long stretch of hot days. Dr. Kohli, we appreciate you. We're going to go over to Ed now to break it all down a little bit more for us.